Watercolor is a wild animal. It's spontaneous and sometimes a bit difficult to control. But with a little knowledge and experience, you can learn to tame this animal and get the results you're after. Welcome to Anderson Studios. I'm Matthew Anderson. I've been a watercolorist for over 35 years, and I've been teaching watercolor for 25. I'd like to share with you the knowledge and experience I've gained and to help you develop better watercolor paintings. All right, let's talk paper. Paper is maybe the most important material you buy for watercolor. If you're going to buy paper, you want to look out for a few things, and I'm going to talk about first what you shouldn't buy, and then go into what is the better option. So first off, we'll take a look at this pad I have here. It's a Fabriano watercolor paper. It says rough finish here, and what you want to pay attention to is the material it's made from. So very cheap watercolor paper is made from cellulose. So it's either all cellulose or it's a cellulose cotton blend. And basically cellulose is a wood pulp fiber kind of product, and it's not very absorbent or not as absorbent as the better papers. And as we take a look at the paper, it's going to look a little kind of funny. So anyway, the paint dries a little strange on here, as I show you here. It's difficult to get a good flat consistent wash. Compare that to a flat wash done on 100% cotton paper. So avoid the cellulose pads, this sort of student grade paper. It's going to give you some kind of frustrations along the way, and it's not going to let the watercolor perform naturally like it should, to the true ability of that paint. So it's going to enhance your painting from the start. So when I'm buying the paper, as I mentioned, it comes in different kinds of weights, and first off is the names of these weights. So you're going to find 90 pound, 140 pound, 300 pound, and that just refers to how thick the paper is. So I usually buy 140 pound weight. It's a medium weight. It's not super thick, but for a painting this size, it's a good weight. We want fairly thick paper, so when the water goes on, it doesn't buckle, sort of bend and turn. For this size, you could use a 90 pound, which is a little thinner, and that's a little cheaper to buy too. If I go to a very large size painting, I would move to the 300 pound weight, which is really thick, almost cardboard thick, and it's not going to buckle. So if you really like to do a lot of heavy wet into wet washes and you really want to go to a heavier paper. The other sort of characteristic of the paper is the texture. And so high quality paper you can buy in 3 different textures. I usually buy the cold press, which is a medium texture, or you can go to very smooth textures like the hot press, or you can go to a heavier texture, which is the rough press. So hot press is good if you like to do very detailed, fine work, because it's smooth and you're not going to have the texture of the paper interfering with straight lines. Some people who like to do more natural sort of landscape and some dry brush work like this more textured paper, which is the cold press. So it's more versatile. I can still do some detail work and get a fine line, but it's going to be a little bit of textured regardless. So if I want to do a lot of heavy granulation, the cold press is good, or the rough press is even better for a lot of granulation in your watercolor. So you can get granulation in a hot press, but it's a little more less defined and not as dramatic. So that's something to think about when you're buying your papers. So usually for all of the different sizes and different kind of painting approaches, I would choose 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. So just make sure it's 100% cotton rag, and you're going to find better results. You'll get nicer transitions in your graduated washes. Something like the wet into wet technique. You're going to get, colors are going to dry in the areas that you want them more easily and more consistently. When you're doing multiple colors of graduated washes, they tend to cover in a more fluid way and more consistently. Also with this paper, you can really work and rework it. So if you're using that cellulose paper, and here's an example of going back on it a few times, and it's really hard to lift color out, and the water moves too much before it dries, so the colors tend to sort of bleed out too much, and you don't get as good a kind of wet into wet technique as you would with the cotton paper. So when you buy really good paper, you'll be able to see a watermark on it, and I don't know if this will show up in the camera, but there's a watermark here. It's a little kind of embossing, and it says the company's name, and not that that's anything special, but it's just a sign that shows you it's actually handmade paper and it's higher quality. Also, that watermark is something good to know because it tells you the front or the back of the paper. And there is a difference between the front and the back. So if you're buying single sheets of paper, hold that up to the light and then see if you can find the watermark, and that will tell you front or back. There is a sizing on the paper on the front, and the texture is a little bit different on the front. So just be aware of that. You can paint on the back of the paper. It's not a no-no. I mean, it's just as good, but it's not the same feel. You can actually feel it if you touch the paper. So anyway, the most economical way to buy good paper is to buy a full sheet, single sheet, 22 by 30 inch sheet. And you can buy them in 90 pound, 140 pound, 300 pound, and then tear down the sheets to the size you want. So with one sheet of paper, I can get like about 8 this size, and this is a good size for beginners to work in. I do sometimes do full sheets of paper for paintings, but that's going to require a much a thicker paper. I'd probably go with a 300-pound paper for a full sheet. Okay, so when you go and buy your paper, there are a couple other brands I didn't mention in the video earlier. And you can, of course, go to Utrecht, or Strathmore is also a good paper to buy. But in this short section here, I'm just going to talk about some of the papers that I've actually used quite a bit and what I think are good about them. And so let's take a look at the first brand here is Arches. And Arches is a French company. They produce paper, quite a lot of paper, and you can buy this about anywhere you buy your art supplies. So it's very easy to find this Arches watercolor paper. And so just a comparison of prices here. I'll show you a couple other brands I use a lot. This is my favorite. So for a block, and the blocks were gummed on all 4 sides, so you don't have to tape your paper down. And for a 9x12 block, it's about $35. Of course, these prices, I tried to find the cheapest, but you might find it cheaper somewhere else. 12x16 is about $50 for that size. And this is for the 140-pound cold press paper. So hot press, cold press, or rough press will be the same price, but just you want to look for 140-pound is your best choice. If you want to buy per sheet, 22 by 30 inch sheet, this is going to run you about $6 or $7 online. If you go to a store, I've usually paid about $10 a sheet at a store, so probably best to go online. The next company, and I've used this, I can find this where I live here in Korea, Fabriano Artistica watercolor paper, and this is a block also 9 by 12, and that runs you about $35, and then for the 12 by 18 size about 50. So pretty much the same price as the arches, and the single sheets too are about the same price. So I'm just, like I said, I'm partial to certain brands, and Arches is one I used a lot. Fabriano is a decent paper as well. It's 100% cotton. Just make sure that's what you're getting and not the cellulose that I had shown you in the earlier part of the video. Saunders Waterford is an excellent paper. Cost is slightly higher. I'm not sure why exactly, but 9 by 12 is 45, 12 by 16 50. Maybe it was just the site that I checked. I looked at Dick Blick's website, and these were the prices. It is more expensive usually, and so it's new to their website, so it's a new product that they're carrying, but it's not a new product. It's a very old company. But anyway, their pricings may be off. I think this is actually probably the wrong price. 9 by 12 for 45 sounds about right. Anyhow, Waterford is a little more difficult to find in the sheet form. You will find it in some of your higher end art supply stores, but certainly the more common supply shops are probably not going to carry this. So you can do of course, online search. You'll find it on Amazon probably, or like I said, you can find these blocks on Dick Blick's site. I like this paper, but like I said, it's hard to find this paper. And then this is a paper I never used before, but I tried to find the best, least expensive kind of paper, and through Dick Blick, this 9 by 12 is $28, and that's the 100% cotton paper, the one you want. They call it their premier block, and so all of these are gummed on all four sides for easy painting. And then the 12 by 16 is $41. So this is a very economical choice. But again, I can't tell you the quality exactly because I've never used this one before. But I'm guessing, like many of the other products that they sell, that are quite good. And it is the Artist series. So whatever you're shopping for, online or in the shop, just ask or look for the artist or professional grade of paper for watercolor, and that you want 100% cotton paper, and you should be on the right track for the best paper for your success. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe, and check out my other videos on YouTube.